This next story is about just that. It's about overcoming fear, or as he puts it, how I ended up in Gilbert, Arizona. So please, everybody, welcome Peter Schumann.
G'day.
Good
Morning.
Morning.
My name's Peter Schumann. That's a scary thought right there. As some of you know, I'm the guy who runs around with a camera in everybody's face. There's something really interesting about that idea. But I found this place by accident. It's a long story, but to put it down to a brief thing, I came here and I want to thank Reverend Joe and Reverend Manny for tying a rubber band around my neck. I could come back here again. But they really didn't need to do that because I'm coming back here anyway. Because this is the only place on Sunday mornings with such talent.
Yeah.
But everybody knows I'm the man from Mississippi. It's been a long haul, but you know what? They all talk funny down there. But when I was a young kid, I really had a fundamental impression on the world that it was really such an interesting and tantalizing place. I wanted to capture as much as I can of what this human experience and what this world around me was and meant. And I just didn't realise how much of a monumental exercise to make it happen. But I'm here now anyway, so that's generally what happens. But a little bit of background. I was born, raised of parents from Nazi Holocaust. And they wanted to escape where the action was, to go to the furthest possible place where there was no drama. Well, what's further than Australia? You know, we're all G'day mates, we're right out there, no one knows us. And we try to grow up being normal. My parents really had a bad time, a hard time, because in essence everybody hated Germans at that time. So they really had a double trouble to being Jewish and being German. But we kind of survived. They tried to assimilate, and my dad used to tell all these egregious G'day mate jokes with a broad German accent. It just didn't cut it. And my mum, God bless her, she was a total sweetheart. And she also felt that what she wanted to do was to be an Aussie. And so she did this barbecue thing. Yeah, but you don't put sauerkraut and bratwurst on barbecue. You do straight on the barbie, Mom. And the stuff that she used to make, she would give it to us and we'd thank her cordially, and then we'd all tiptoe outside and give it to the dog. But she was a sweetheart, and I take after her. And my barbecue's a lot better, I'll tell you. But one day I'm coming back from high school and I'm walking, it was a 2 mile, we lived in the bush in the outback, and I'm walking about a 2 mile stretch back to my place, and I came across this commotion on the top of where our road meets a highway. And there was just a lot of people standing there. There was lights and people moving. I thought, ooh, a bit of action there, you know. So I kind of hurried up my pace and got there. And I kind of leant down and peered through all the people's legs, because I'm a little guy, you know. That's what little guys do. And unfortunately, there's my brother lying dead on the road. Oh my God! I didn't quite know what to do at that point. His motorcycle, he was a victim of a hit and run. So someone in the crowd said, "Get him out of there! That's his brother!" So I quickly scurried out there and ran all the way home along this dirt road and told my parents. So after a time, my parents decided that we're no longer having motorbikes. in the household. He said, I'll tell you what, he said, you can have a car with 4 wheels and a metal thing around you. And I said, okay. And he had the notion that I was pretty technically minded. So, he said, Pete, go get yourself a car. So I bought this bomb. Wreck. Well, what do you get for $35? And he said, I'll tell you what, he said, why don't you take this thing apart, put it all back together, and when you've done that, then you can drive off into the sunset. I thought, that's cool, I'll do that. So, 6 months later, the thing was back together, it looked really cool. Then I had a really copper pipe exhaust. Woohoo, that was really cool at the time, trust me. And my brother sitting next to me and his friend behind me. And we're driving down the street and I'm showing him 40 miles an hour. Woohoo, this is really cool. And a car came and swerved in front of me. And I reacted to swing the other way, put my foot on the brake, and unfortunately the car tumbled end over end down the road. So, I remember to this day the glass, the people's feet, and the lights around me. I'm on ground zero level, so I spoke cordially to the medic as I was being taken to the hospital. And he said, and I said to him, what happened to my brother? He said, unfortunately he didn't make it. The car rolled over him. So here we are, an immigrant family from Nazi Germany trying to assimilate with 4 boys, and we're down to 2. So there was a big transition over my whole mindset at this point. I felt that life, our life as a human, can be snuffed out at any time, at any moment, at any day, anywhere. So I became very conscious of that, and it was a point of my life when I felt that we needed to make some changes. So the pain was also taking its toll on my parents. So they sold their house and they went up and lived in Queensland. Everybody know where Queensland is? Well, sort of. It's like Florida, but it's not. So, but for the next 20 years, having known and understood the frailty of humanness or human life, I decided to capture and absorb as much as I could. So I travelled relentlessly around the world. While my friends were all at university, upgrading corporate positions, I'm travelling around the world. Afghanistan, Israel, Thailand, Britain, Europe, and Canada. I also did America too. And I really liked America out of everything else, and that was another story of why I'm here. But I think when I got back, I decided that, you know what, Pete, this is getting kind of irresponsible. Going around and doing nothing and traveling around the world. So, what do? I go to a dance and I met this really cool gal. She had ribbons all around her wall. She was a beauty queen. And she said, oh, you know, what's her name? I said, James. Oh, that's good. James who? James Bond. Really? Yeah. Well, you know, at 20 years old, what do you do? So, she said, I always really wanted to hang out and hook up with the James Bond. I said, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. Jump on this train. So that was another story for another day. But I got married. I ran a business, a successful business. And at one point, she said to me, she said, Pete, you know what? I want to replicate what you've done when you were younger. That travel around the world thing. I said, well, hang on. I've got 2 kids now. I've got a good business. Oh, just sell it. Sell it? Whew, that was a stretch. But I do feel inwardly that I do love to travel. I like to experience new things, and with my wife and the 2 kids, that was an experience right there, traveling around the world. So we did the same. We travelled for about 12 months with a motorhome right around Britain, Europe and America. And we came home here and we kind of looked at each other, and in summary it was a situation where you think, what's going on? There's nothing here. We've done it. We've done it all. We actually ran out of steam. Is that possible? Apparently. So in essence, what I call it the use-by date. The use-by date came up. That's it. We're done. Time to move on. Get rid of it. So I went through a lot of reassessments, reevaluations and realignment, and I guess I did a lot of wildernessing. Does anybody know what wilderness is? I go out in the wilderness to think, meditate. And in Australia we call it go walkabout. So that. Right. And that's what it's about. But I always had a dream. I always had a dream to do something different, to challenge myself. And I don't know why I do this. This is frustrating. But to challenge myself, it really brings out the core of who you are. You can do a lot with that. And I really wanted to climb a new mountain. And of all the countries I'd been around the world, there was one that stood out with my ethos. And that was the United States of America. Has anybody heard that? Because I thought that, if I go to America, everybody's rich. There's endless opportunities. And the streets are paved with gold. Why wouldn't I go there? So I talked with my friends about this, and there's such a thing as called dream stealers. Everybody heard of what dream stealers? You can't do that. You're just not up for that. That's stupid thinking. That's irresponsible. You're too old. You're too poor. You can't do that stuff. That's nuts. And what happens if you fail? Ooh, that's a big one. But really it was about the fear of the unknown. And that's a big captivating factor that really drives us all into a war. We get to a certain point and the fear is something that is absolutely unconscionable and intolerable.
Yeah.
So I thought the best way to do it is to overcome fear with positive things. And I've just explained a few. Fear is only just fear. I mean, it's because we all creatures of habit, we don't know what else to do than stay in uniform in one spot and do the same thing. So this is where we got with that issue. And I felt that I really had to uncover one more issue that held me back. Because my parents were aging at this time, and it would be totally irresponsible for me to throw in the towel and walk. I felt really bad about that. And I went to my parents, I said to my dad, "Dad, I'm going to America." "Great, good job, son. Have a good trip. When do you get back?" I said, "Actually, it's a one-way trip." The room was dead silence. It was something that was unexpected, but not totally, particularly for me. I said, "Well, look, let's not make a decision. We'll get together now in a couple of weeks and we'll discuss it." So in summary, what happened, I went back and talked to them a couple of weeks later, and we discussed this, and my father said, "Son, I want you to know something. You are in the prime of your life doing stuff. We know what we need. We have what we need. We have services for the cities, the utilities around. We've got everything set up. And if you stay back and just because of us, that will not make us happy. I said, really? He said, we would be happy if you follow your own star, follow your dream, take yourself on your path wherever it leads. That will make us happy. That was an incredible, poignant moment. Let me tell you why. Because that had obliterated the last remaining threshold to my fear, my anxiety. But you know what else? It brought up the biggest one. And here's why. Because now I got to put up or shut up. So I then travel up and down the front of a travel agency. And I was absolutely scared. I won't tell you the real word, but I was really scared to go inside and buy that ticket. And finally one day I got the courage and I walked in there. And I was so anxious. In fact, I still feel it right now at that particular time. And I sat there and the lady said, well, what can I help you with? I want to go to America. I could hardly speak. I was frozen with anxiety. Oh, she said, we've got plenty of good deals going. I've got one for you right here. Great. She said, when are you coming back? I said, I'm not. You're not? She said, oh, it's a one-way trip? She was dead quiet. I said, what's going on with these people? You know, I want to do something original here. So basically, let me tell you, when she processed that ticket, and I walked out of that store with a receipt in my hand, an incredible change came over me. What I'd done is I'd overcome fear. Totally. I had now completed the project of overcoming all the obstacles, including fear, and this complete serenity came over me. I was like full of energy, full of focus. In fact, I was reborn. And what an incredible, powerful feeling that is. It's just totally magic, and that's why I feel that this is so important for all of us to take away with, to overcome this fear. Because if you can overcome fear with motivation, then the world is in your hands. That's the truth. Because half the time when we don't want to do things, we make excuses all the time why we can't. But we don't think of why we can. And that's really the power of this whole thing. So I got my ticket, jumped on a plane, and landed on LAX with a suitcase and a smile. And I said, here I am. Watch out, America, I'm here. I'm ready. So the first thing I did, I walked out and walked to a Jack in the Box. This was a trip. And I said to the guy, he said, yeah, I want a drink. Oh, what, soda? Yeah, that'll do, whatever, I don't know. He said, what size? Oh, a small. So the guy rolls up with a cup this size. I said, hang on, I said a small. He said, that is a small. So that was my first introduction to American consumption. But what I did, I got this, a little cheap-ass motel right in Anaheim, right by Disneyland, because it was cheap. Everybody changes hands there. And what I did, I took that out for 2 weeks, and I positioned myself where I wanted to be, and I said, look, I need to be right where all the freeways connect in LA, and that was Torrance in California. So I felt that's where I wanted to be, and then I ended up getting a room, and the rest of my story in America is another story for another day. But I'm not advocating that we all pack up and move to Botswana or Timbuktu or even Sydney. It's a nice thought, but it's just, this is my deal, my way of learning who I am, what I am, and how it absolutely changes you to be able to run rings around fear. Because fear is the biggest demotivator you could ever find. It really stops us being who we are. And I kind of got myself together to form what I call the Gospel according to St. Pete. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Pretty heavy duty.
Do it.
First of all, you've got to spend time alone, meditate, and develop a desire for something that you really want to do. And the second thing is you've got to get some clarity on it. It's not something like you say, well, I want to be Prime Minister of America. That's not going to happen. Or you want to ride a rocket ship to somewhere. I mean, you've got to be realistic. There's got to be something that's at least plausible, realistic, and the only thing that's really stopping you doing something is these other extraneous things we talk about. And the third thing is you've got to examine yourself. This is the fundamental that I really had to work on a lot. Can you do it? And I always wonder why I travelled all this time right around the world, not once, not twice, but God knows how many. But it's really a humbling and educational experience to be in front of a lot of other different people from different cultures. You really learn where you are on this planet. So I knew I could do it. But again, I'm just relating the concept of what you must do if you really want to make a change, you want to leave your partner or get a new one, or whatever you want to do. It's really about looking at those issues very clearly and very truthfully for yourself. And finally, it's about taking the first step. Well, after you're dead in the water, the engine's stopped, you're sinking. So each of us has a unique destiny in our life. You know what? We owe it to ourselves to be all we can be. This is the human experience. It's wonderful. I need to be born a brick. I'm not going to do it. But when you reach the pearly gates, at the end of the day, you can look around and talk to your mates and say, I gave it my best shot. That's a really comforting feeling to feel that way. Or as Frank Sinatra once said, I did it my way.